When I married David, I didn't expect the silence. Not just the kind that fills the house when he's away on business, but the silence between us when he's home. The way we sit across from each other at dinner, exchanging polite words but not warmth. I told myself that comfort was enough, that stability was the reward after the chaos of my 20s. But some nights, I found myself listening for the sound of the front door, not because I missed him, but because I wondered if he even missed me. Then Liam came home. David's son from his first marriage. 22, tall, lean, and quieter than I remembered. I'd only met him twice before, once at the wedding, and briefly over brunch last Thanksgiving. Back then, he'd barely looked at me. I assumed he didn't approve. But now, returning from college for the summer, he walked through the door with a duffel bag and a nod that said little, but somehow, everything. Our first real conversation happened over coffee. I was in my robe, hair tied up, trying not to look as tired as I felt. He padded into the kitchen barefoot, still shaking sleep from his eyes. "You're up early," I said, not looking at him directly. "I never really adjusted back to the time zone," he replied, leaning against the counter. "Or maybe I just don't sleep well here." I nodded. I understood more than I cared to admit. He glanced at the book on the counter, one of those Lonely Wife beach reads I'd grabbed at the airport last month. "That any good?" he asked. "Guilty pleasure," I said with a laugh. "Don't judge." "I'm not," he said, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "I like stories where people get messy. Feels more honest." Something about the way he said it, so calm, so measured, unsettled me. I offered a weak smile and excused myself. But all day, his words replayed in my mind. That night, as David called to say he'd be extending his trip another 2 days, I found myself watching Liam from the hallway. He was in the living room, sketching something with headphones on, lost in whatever world he was creating on the page. He looked peaceful. Not like his father. Later, I passed by the coffee table. The sketchpad was still there. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. A woman's figure, reclined, with hair just like mine. It could have been coincidence. But I knew it wasn't. I told myself it meant nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. Still, something stirred inside me, an awareness, sharp and sudden, like the first crack of a storm on a summer night. And just like that, the silence in the house no longer felt so empty. It felt charged. Alive. Waiting. Liam didn't say anything about me seeing the sketch. Maybe he didn't know I had. Or maybe he did, and that was the point. The days that followed unfolded like a quiet unraveling. David remained out of town, buried in meetings and delays, his voice through the phone as thin and distant as the connection itself. "You all right?" he asked once. I said yes. He didn't ask again. Liam and I started spending more time together, not intentionally, not at first. It began with shared meals, both of us too polite to leave the other alone at the table. Then came the casual movie nights, old black and white films, the kind no one else wanted to watch. I told myself it was innocent. That I was just grateful for the company. But the air between us changed. One evening, he asked if I wanted to see more of his sketches. We sat on the porch, the sun folding itself into the horizon, the sky bruised with dusk. His notebook was full of impressions, faces, hands, moments frozen in graphite. Some were messy, some beautiful. One, unmistakably, was me, my profile caught in a half-smile, hair loose around my shoulders. "You have a good eye," I murmured, handing the pad back. "You make it easy," he said softly. I looked away, but not fast enough to miss the way he was watching me. That night, I poured us each a glass of wine. I told myself it was just a gesture of hospitality. But when he sat beside me on the couch, closer than usual, I didn't move away. We talked. Really talked. About art, about the weight of expectations. I told him how marriage had turned into a quiet arrangement, a kind of structured loneliness. He listened without flinching. "I think most people settle," he said. "They find a rhythm and call it love." "Do you think I've settled?" I asked, regretting the question even as it left my lips. He didn't answer right away. Just looked at me for a long time. "I think you're still waiting for something to wake you up." I didn't sleep well that night. I kept thinking of his words, the conviction in them. Not judgmental, not pitying, just honest. The next afternoon, it rained. Heavy, endless. I came downstairs in a sweatshirt and socks to find Liam in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, making grilled cheese like it was a gourmet event. He looked up, smiled, handed me a plate like we'd done this for years. We ate in silence, listening to the rain drum against the windows. When he reached across the table to tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear, I froze. But I didn't pull away. It was a small moment, nothing said aloud, but everything changed in it. The kind of moment that doesn't ask for permission. The kind that lingers. And somewhere deep inside me, something stirred. Something that had been asleep for a very long time. The rain had been relentless all afternoon, casting a grey veil over the windows and muffling the world outside. Inside, the house felt cocooned, insulated from time. I found myself drawn to the living room, where Liam sat at the piano, his fingers coaxing out a melody that was both haunting and beautiful. He looked up as I entered, a soft smile playing on his lips. "Didn't know you played," I said, settling into the armchair nearby. "I don't, really," he replied, his fingers still dancing over the keys. "Just messing around." The tune shifted, becoming more deliberate, more intimate. I watched his hands, the way they moved with purpose and grace. The room was filled with the music and the rhythmic patter of rain, creating a world that felt separate from everything else. When the final note lingered in the air, he turned to me, his expression unreadable. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "About us." My heart pounded in my chest. "Liam." He stood, closing the distance between us. "I know this is complicated. But I can't ignore how I feel." I looked up at him, searching his eyes for hesitation, for doubt. There was none. "This isn't just a passing thing for me," he continued. "I see you. I feel connected to you in a way I can't explain." I stood, the space between us now non-existent. I've tried to suppress these feelings, to pretend they don't exist. But they do. He reached out, gently tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Then let's stop pretending." Our lips met, tentative at first, then more assured. The world outside ceased to exist. There was only this moment, this connection. Later, as we lay entwined on the couch, the storm outside mirrored the turmoil within me. I knew the implications, the consequences. But in that moment, wrapped in his arms, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, alive. The rain continued to fall, washing away the boundaries we had crossed, leaving us in uncharted territory. The morning after felt surreal. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, casting a warm glow over the living room. Liam was already up, sipping coffee at the kitchen counter. Our eyes met, and a silent understanding passed between us. "Morning," he said, his voice steady. "Morning," I replied, forcing a smile. The day unfolded with a peculiar normalcy. We went about our routines, careful to maintain a semblance of distance. Yet, every glance, every brush of proximity, was charged with the memory of the night before. David returned that evening, his presence reintroducing a familiar dynamic. He greeted us with his usual charm, oblivious to the undercurrents that now permeated our home. Over the next few days, I found myself caught between two worlds. With David, everything was as it had always been, predictable, comfortable, but lacking. With Liam, even the simplest interactions were laced with unspoken tension and longing. One afternoon, I found a note slipped under my bedroom door. It was from Liam. "I understand if we pretend nothing happened. But I want you to know, it wasn't meaningless to me." I sat on the edge of my bed, the note trembling in my hands. The weight of our actions pressed heavily on me. I had crossed a line, one that couldn't be uncrossed. Weeks passed. Liam left for college, our goodbye brief and formal. David remained unaware, his focus consumed by work. I tried to bury the memories, to convince myself it was a fleeting lapse. But the truth lingered, persistent and unyielding. Months later, a package arrived. Inside was a painting, a woman bathed in soft light, her expression a mix of sorrow and hope. It was me. Alongside it, a note: "Some moments define us." This one defined me. I placed the painting on my dresser, a silent testament to a chapter one couldn't forget. Life continued, but I was changed. Not by the act itself, but by the realization of what I truly desired, a connection that stirred my soul, a love that made me feel alive. And in that acknowledgement, I found a semblance of peace.